Have you ever looked into her eyes and felt something ancient, like a storm you couldn't name? It wasn't love. It wasn't safety. It was gravity. A pull so deep it made you forget yourself, your mission, your purpose, even your pain. In that moment, you weren't a man. You were a boy, enchanted, disarmed, exposed, and you called it romance. But it was something else, something older, something designed. That sweetness you tasted, it dulled your caution. That warmth you clung to, it erased your edge. Her gaze, it wasn't just attention. It was architecture, calculated, ancestral, powerful. Brother, this is not poetry. This is biology wrapped in illusion. Most men chase women with blind devotion because no one ever taught them. She is not here to complete you. She is here to test you. You weren't taught that beauty is the bait, not the truth. You weren't warned that love, if unexamined, is just another form of madness. But Socrates knew. He saw it. He spoke it. And he paid the price for saying what no one else dared to. A man who doesn't understand the feminine is not in love. He's in danger. So before you fall for her again, ask yourself, is this love? Or am I just unguarded and untrained? She's not the villain in your story. She's the mirror. And what you see in her, power, unpredictability, tenderness, danger, is what you refuse to see in yourself. You were raised to chase beauty, to please it, to serve it. And when it vanished or turned cold, you called her heartless. But you never asked, why was I kneeling in the first place? Socrates warned not against women, but against illusion. He saw men like you, hungry for touch, blind to truth. They built their lives around her smiles. They built empires, hoping she'd finally say, I'm proud of you. But when the walls were breached and the gold was gone, she left. Not out of cruelty, but because nature doesn't honor men who abandon themselves. She tests you, not with words, but with silence, not with violence, but with softness. And if you are not centered, if you don't know your line, you'll bend to her mood. You'll beg for her light, and she'll see the truth before you do. You are not sovereign. Modern man hides behind performance. A suit, a job, a gym membership. But inside, he's starving. Starving for her approval, her touch, her yes. And here's the secret Socrates whispered through history. Power is not in winning her. Power is in not needing to. Because when she sees a man who cannot be seduced by her affection, who does not crumble under her withdrawal, who does not orbit her emotions, but walks his path with clarity, she feels awe, not fear, not submission. Awe. That man cannot be moved. And when a woman meets a man who cannot be moved, she stops testing and starts aligning. But most men today don't reach that point. They mistake devotion for discipline, lust for loyalty. They forget she's not looking for someone to follow her. She's watching to see if you're worth following. So examine your desire. Why do you want her? What do you believe she'll fix in you? And who are you without her gaze? These aren't romantic questions. They're survival questions. Because love, real love, is not found in giving her everything. It's found in knowing what not to give. And if you can't stand alone, she won't stand with you. Not because she's broken, but because you are. She changes. She adapts. She flows with instinct, survival, and mood. She is not a constant. She is the tide. And you? You were never meant to be the boat tossed in her current. You were meant to be the mast, anchored, upright, unshaken. Socrates understood this. He never asked the world to change for him. He changed himself to meet the world with clarity. A woman's nature is not the problem. Your inability to hold your ground in front of her is. When you chase her approval, she feels it. When you bend your boundaries for affection, she notices. When you lose yourself in her silence, her game, her tests, she doesn't think, "What a loving man." She thinks, "This one has no center," and without a center, you are not a man. You are a satellite, orbiting her, hoping she pulls you close, hoping she chooses you. But a man who is whole doesn't need to be chosen. He invites. He leads. And if she cannot walk at the rhythm of his integrity, he lets her go, without bitterness, without collapse, without losing the flame inside him. Socrates taught that the soul is divided. Reason, spirit, appetite. Most men live in appetite. They crave her gaze, her softness, her surrender. But they don't realize she doesn't surrender to craving. She surrenders to command, not force, not control, but the command of a man who knows who he is and will not trade it for affection. She doesn't want your submission. She wants your sovereignty. Because only in that clarity does she feel safe to soften. Only in that presence does she melt. But if you abdicate your throne, if you hand her the crown before you've earned your own, she will test you relentlessly until you break. Not because she is prole, but because nature is efficient, and a woman cannot relax into a man she doesn't respect. Let her be wind. Let her move, stir, seduce. Let her test. But you hold the line, not to dominate her, but to protect what she can't, your purpose. She is not the compass. You are. She is not the fire. You are. She is not the meaning. You are. And when she sees a man who walks without begging, who leads without forcing, who can lose her and still remain whole, that man becomes gravity. She can run from it, deny it, resist it. But in the silence of her own instinct, she will feel it, and she will follow. Not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. You believed she would save you, not with her hands, but with her presence. Her love would make the chaos go quiet. Her eyes would make you feel enough. Her voice would silence your doubts. And so you chased her, not just for touch, not just for comfort, but for meaning. But Socrates warned, no one can complete you, especially not her. The tragedy is not that men desire women. It's that they believe women are the cure for their lost identity. So you gave her the throne. You made her your peace. You traded discipline for devotion. And the worst part? You called it love. But what you offered was not love. It was dependence dressed as romance. It was insecurity disguised as passion. You didn't want her. You needed her to tell you who you are. And here's the painful truth. She cannot do that. She was never meant to. She can smile. She can kiss. She can walk beside you. But she cannot make you a man, because a real man is built before her, not by her. Socrates lived surrounded by men who mistook desire for wisdom. They chased applause, power, pleasure, and they called it life. But he knew a man who is enslaved by his hunger is not alive. He is a prisoner of impulse. And modern men, they bow for love. They break for approval. They abandon mission for emotion, all because they never studied their own desire. You were told to be nice, to be soft, to listen, to empathize. But no one told you that without a spine, your heart means nothing, because the woman you worship will test you. And when you fail, not her test, but yours, you will resent her. You will say she used you, manipulated you, discarded you. But the truth is, She simply reflected your own lack of selfhood. She is not your mother. She is not your God. She is not your purpose. She is the mirror, the question, the tension that shows you where your edges are. And most men, when faced with that truth, do not rise. They collapse. They chase harder. They beg. They lose themselves. But you must not. Socrates didn't teach you to fear her. He taught you to understand her, to see the architecture of her instinct, to study what you call love before it devours you. Because the woman who truly wants you doesn't want your soul on a leash. She wants to feel your spine in the storm. She wants to see you stand when everything in her tests you to fall. And only when you can do that, only when you can walk away from her without losing yourself, can you ever truly walk toward her, not as a beggar, but as a man not moved by flattery, not broken by rejection, not seduced by shadows. That is the man she respects. That is the man she remembers. That is the man she follows. You think the battle is with her silence, her tests, her shifting moods, her refusal to stay when you give her everything. But Socrates would ask, why do you expect permanence from a creature of change? She is not your war. She is the weather, unpredictable, powerful, beautiful, but not personal. The storm isn't attacking you. It's revealing where your shelter leaks. And brother, your shelter is full of cracks. Not because of her, but because of what you never built within yourself. You never studied your values. You never sat in solitude long enough to hear your own voice. You never asked, who am I without her attention? And so when she pulls away, you panic. Not because she's gone, but because you were never whole. You don't fear her absence. You fear the emptiness it reveals. But Socrates taught, the soul must be ruled by reason. And reason says, she is not your oxygen. She is a mirror. She reflects your strength or your lack of it. Do you want her love? Then stop needing it. Stop chasing her approval like a boy seeking his mother's nod. You are not a child. You are a man. And a man does not beg for validation. He builds it from fire, from focus, from trials no one sees. Women don't follow men who need them. They follow men who lead themselves, because she will test you, not to ruin you, but to find out if you are who you say you are. When she challenges your boundaries, do you fold? When she plays games, do you chase? When she withdraws love, do you withdraw your mission? Every reaction reveals you. You say you want truth. Then study your behavior under pressure. Socrates didn't need enemies to destroy him. He watched men destroy themselves with their own unexamined desires. And that's what you're doing when you put her on a pedestal, when you make her your purpose, when you trade your backbone for her embrace. You're not loving her. You're escaping yourself, and she knows it. Even if she can't name it, she feels it in your eyes, that desperation, that hunger to be chosen. But she cannot crown a man who hasn't claimed his own throne. She wants to be near fire, not light it. So the war is not with her. It never was. It's with the lie inside you that says you are nothing until she says you are. That is the illusion. That is the prison. And that is what must die before the real man in you can live. So no, she is not your battle. You are. And until you win that war within, you will keep losing her and blaming her for a defeat she never caused. There is a paradox most men never solve. The moment you stop needing her love is the moment she begins to offer it freely, not out of submission, but selection. Not because you begged, but because you became undeniable. You became clear. You stopped asking her to define you. You stopped interpreting her moods as your worth. You no longer chased her validation, like a thirsty man chases mirages in the desert. And in doing so, you became real. Socrates once said, "The shortest and surest way to live with honor in the world is to be in reality what we would appear to be." But how many men live this? How many post quotes on discipline but crumble when her tone changes? How many talk about purpose but pause it every time she pulls away? Brother, she doesn't want your poems. She wants your presence. Grounded, focused, immovable. She will never tell you that. Not directly, because the moment she has to explain it, you've already lost it. She feels it, or she doesn't. You either hold your line or you orbit hers. You either live from your mission or you ask her to give you one. But here's what they won't teach you. She doesn't respect the man who needs her. She pities him. She uses him. She may even stay with him, but only until something stronger walks into the room. Because a woman does not love from obligation. She loves from admiration. She admires clarity, not confusion. She follows stability, not volatility. She aligns with leadership, not dependency. And the only way to lead is to lead yourself. That's what Socrates meant when he spoke of the examined life. Not just ideas, but impulses. Not just philosophy, but posture. Ask yourself, why do you fold when she tests you? Why do you fall silent when she's distant? Why do you panic when her warmth fades? It's not her. It's you. You were never anchored. You were performing. You had a mag of masculinity, but no muscle behind it. The truth is, you wanted her to complete you because you never took the time to become complete on your own. But when you finally do, when you live by standards, when your days are disciplined, when your soul is sovereign, she sees you differently. She doesn't just desire you. She trusts you. And trust is the foundation of love that lasts longer than a weekend. She doesn't want to lead you. She wants to feel safe beside a man who knows where he's going, with or without her. So stop chasing the temporary fix. Build the permanent fire. Become the man who doesn't flinch when she tests, who doesn't collapse when she's distant, who doesn't surrender his throne to gain her approval. And she will feel it in her bones, in her instincts, in her silence. She will see you. Not the mask, not the craving, but the clarity. And that clarity, brother, is irresistible. Let's end where all real transformation begins. In silence. Not the silence of weakness, not the silence of submission, but the silence of a man who no longer needs to prove himself. You've heard the noise, the world screaming what you should become: charming, pleasing, soft, agreeable. You've tried it, and it nearly broke you. You became the version of yourself that she would clap for. You said the right things. You moved the right way. You performed. But deep down, you knew it wasn't you. That was not strength. That was survival. And a man who survives by surrendering his center is a man walking on sand. Now, listen to me. There is another path, the quiet one, the heavy one, the real one, the path where you no longer chase women, but understand them, where you no longer worship beauty, but see through it, where you no longer bend for affection, but stand in your own alignment. That is the man the world forgot. That is the man Socrates died reminding us of. He didn't plead. He didn't flinch. He didn't conform. He questioned. He endured. He chose death over dishonor. That's not myth. That's blueprint. So what does that mean for you, brother? It means you stop explaining your standards. You stop justifying your distance. You stop asking to be understood. Instead, you become the man who doesn't collapse when she's cold. Become the man who doesn't dance to avoid her disapproval. Become the man whose life is already full. Not because of her love, but because of your clarity. And when she tests you, because she will, you will not resist it. You will welcome it, because a real man is not afraid to be measured. He's only afraid to be found lacking. So you train, you refine, you sharpen, until no part of you fears her gaze, until no piece of your identity depends on her affection. She is not the threat. She is the mirror. And when you see her clearly, not as goddess, not as villain, but as woman. You finally return, not to dominate, not to impress, but to lead, and not just her, but yourself, because here is the truth. Socrates whispered, "If you do not govern yourself, you will be governed by her, by lust, by fear, by the illusion of love. But if you stand still, firm, come in the storm of her beauty, and your own hunger for it, you will find something better than possession. You will find peace, and in that peace, she will feel something rare in this world. A man who is whole, not because she stayed, but because he stood. So let this be the final word. You do not need her to love you. You need you to remember you, and when you do, the test becomes a mirror, the longing becomes a lesson, and the woman becomes what she was always meant to be, not your reward, not your rescue, but your reflection. You don't chase her. You invite her, not with words, but with presence, not with promises, but with posture, not to complete you, but to walk beside the man who never forgot who he was, even when the world begged him to forget. Brother, stand, breathe, begin. If these words stirred something in you, if they challenged your mind or awakened a part of you that refuses to kneel, then let this not be the end, like the video. Not for the algorithm, but to remind yourself that you choose clarity over comfort. Comment below. Share what spoke to your soul, because your voice might be the spark for another man's awakening. And subscribe, not to follow, but to continue walking this path of truth, of reason, of inner mastery. This isn't just content. It's a quiet revolution. And you, brother, are part of it.